occupied East Jerusalem. After 80-year-old professional photographer Garo Nalbandian learned that settlers had returned to demolish part of the parking lot near his home in the Armenian Quarter, he joined a community sit-in in the area known as Cow Garden with his the right camera. "We will not leave," Nalbandian said firmly, snapping pictures of Armenians on one side of the makeshift barricade and Israeli police and hired security on the other. On October 26, the head of the Armenian Patriarchate of Jerusalem announced the cancellation of a 2021 land lease deal with a real estate company rumored to have ties to settler interests. Since then, Zana Gardens officials have sent contractors, armed squatters and bulldozers to seize the land, along with a parking lot that includes the property of an Armenian church and the home of Nalbandian and 4 other families. The 1,600-year-old Armenian community is concentrated in the Armenian Quarter, occupying 14% of Jerusalem's old city in its southwestern corner. Hakobyan, 26, one of the leaders of the current movement to cancel the land deal, said, "You know all your neighbors. If I don't have milk at 1 a.m., I just knock on their door. If I don't have bread, I call my friend. We take care of each other's children, our families." This Armenian community, the oldest Armenian diaspora in the world, has seen its population decline from about 27,000 a century ago to about 1,000 today. However, with each demolition attempt, the community flocks in large numbers within minutes, standing in the path of bulldozers and enduring threats of arrest and armed intimidation. The Nalbandian family risks losing the home they have lived in since 1969 under the agreement. Garo's wife, Hrut, whose family has lived in Jerusalem since at least the 8th and 9th centuries, described her fond memories of decades of engagement, marriage, and raising children in their modest one-story home. Pressure on the church to cancel the deal increased when Jordan and the Palestinian Authority withdrew recognition of Patriarch Manouchian in May, as they saw the deal as a threat to the status quo in the Old City and expressed concern that stakeholders had not been consulted. Manouchian's decision to cancel the deal on October 26 ended the internal division of the Armenian community over the issue. However, on the same day, Israeli heavy equipment arrived in the disputed area to begin demolition. On November 5th, representatives from Zana Gardens returned with Rothman. This time they brought about 15 settlers, several of whom were armed and had dogs on leashes. "This is our land," they told the local Armenians. "Leave now." But the Armenians refused to leave. A tense standoff ensued that lasted several hours, with more settlers arriving and more Armenians increasing in number until the armed settlers were eventually outnumbered. Some settlers tried to provoke the community members. "You are all Goyim, and when the Messiah comes, you will die," one of them told them. A Christian Arab from Jaffa, who previously represented the Zana Gardens company, allegedly shouted, "I will get you one by one." This was the first time most in the community had met Rothman, who declined to speak to reporters. According to Hakobyan, Rothman, who usually lives abroad, told police during the standoff that the community wanted to cancel the deal because he was Jewish. An act of peaceful resistance forced Rothman and his group to leave several hours later. Just by the look on Danny Rothman's face, you could tell he didn't expect things to unfold the way they did, Hakobyan said. As negotiations continue between church authorities and residents demanding more transparency, Armenians remain adamant. "We won't leave," insists 80-year-old photographer Garo Nalbandian. Their strong but peaceful resistance gives hope that the community that survived the genocide in Turkey can survive this final test. As the world's attention turns to the war in Gaza, residents of the Armenian Quarter say Zana Gardens' tactics are shifting toward direct armed confrontation. "They thought it would scare us," Hakobyan said of the gun threats. "But this did not frighten us, but gave us strength. We are now more united than ever." Patriarch Manouchian, often criticized by Armenians for his lack of leadership, was present at this month's confrontations. On November 16th, the Armenian Patriarchate described the situation as perhaps the greatest existential threat in its entire 1,600-year history, condemning the 2021 contract as tainted by false statements, undue influence, and illegal gain. Armenians fear that their small, close-knit community will not survive the loss of the Cow Garden, which makes up much of the Armenian Quarter outside the Armenian monastery, a closed area originally reserved for the clergy but now housing many of the Armenians who moved there roughly a century ago after the Armenian genocide. This valuable site is seen as key to the Israeli settlers' plans, as the long-term lease would complete the route for Jewish pilgrims through the Old City from Jaffa Gate to the Jewish Quarter, bypassing Christian property, consistent with previous purchases of the new Imperial and Petra hotels. Since Rothman and the settlers first resorted to armed confrontation, Armenians have been keeping watch in the Cow Garden, where 2 bulldozers are parked. They remain non-violent throughout the clashes at the insistence of movement leaders like Balian and Jernazian. As the company's demolition attempts continue, the community remains resolute. As 40-year-old restaurant owner Miran Krikorian said of his 4-year-old son, "If I think about everything my child will miss, including this community being with friends, I grew up here and I want him to have the same memories. If I don't do anything now, he will lose it in the future."